Here we go. The gang's all here. Dave Johnson with Rob Woodfork, George Wallace, Chris Cichon, Dave Preston. This is the huddle where we don't solve anything. We talk a lot, and maybe you'll find something that you actually enjoy. And we huddle together. We gather together after Washington's oh-so-close game against the Giants on Sunday. And I'll start it, guys. I'm lost. I'm glad I've got four of you with me here because I don't know where to go with this. Yes, it was close. Yes, they had a chance to tie. Yes, they had a chance to win. But it was against the Giants. Yes, they had 10 plays or 5 drives of at least 10 plays or more. Yes, Tressway was aboard finally for a week. He only had one punt. So, but I'm not sure where we go with this. So Rob Woodfork, help me out. You've bailed me out of so many jams before. Where do I go with a Washington team that came close against the Giants yet has a chance at first place? Am I reading that right? That's crazy, Rob.
Yeah, unfortunately you read that right because everybody in the division is equally as terrible. And so, I mean, my takeaway was this, and I sort of hammered this point when I was on air on Sunday, is that it was, first of all, and I said this last week, a close game doesn't mean a good game. This was sloppy. This was terrible. And the sum total is you lost a game because you turned the ball over. Both of those turnovers, including the game-winning touchdown on a fumble return for a score, they didn't score touchdowns unless you turn the ball over. That's the fact. And so this is the second game in which that's happened to this team. It happened in Cleveland, and this is a different quarterback. So at what point now, and I'm sorry if I'm skipping ahead to the next topic here, at what point do you go to Alex Smith? Because both of the young quarterbacks that you're playing are turning the ball over in some horrible, horrible spots. The interception that Kyle Allen threw early, that was terrible. I couldn't even see where the receiver was he was trying to throw to. So if you have this kid, both of these kids really, who are going out there and turning over the ball, and you have this preoccupation with winning a bad division, then why isn't Alex Smith in the game?
Because the goal is to win the division. All right, and as you put it so wonderfully on Sunday night, it was a winnable game against a bad opponent or something like that, and that just totally demoralized me on Sunday evening. All right, we're going to get to that Alex Smith topic because we can't go a week without a quarterback topic. Christian, it looked like you're ready to rush the passer here. Your takeaway, how are you moving through this week with a Washington team that is still looking for another win and is about to battle for first place?
I'm disgusted, Dave, with the Washington football team. What else is new? That was an awful 2-point decision. Rob, I know you did defend it on social media, the decision to actually go for 2. I think you disrespect the defense by telling them, I don't think you can go out there and stop the Giants' offense, which is pretty putrid to begin with as it is. And to go for it on to get 2 yards there is not as easy as you think. Why do these coaches, they just seem to think it's ingrained in their heads, like, I got to go for 2 here. The analytics tell me to go for 2. I got to go for 2. No, tie the game, go to overtime. Maybe you force Daniel Jones to make a mistake in the overtime and fumble it, and then you could take over and just kick the field goal to win. We saw Maryland do it against Ohio State a couple years ago. Did that work out? No. Kyle Allen went 31 of 42. Still didn't play that well. The eye test didn't really pass it. To lose to the Giants, a not so great team, but we're still in the division. So, all right.
All right. Well, we're still in the division, and you don't get the
first thing. I love Fired Up Chris. Fired Up Chris is my favorite flavor of Chris. Can I just say that? That's number one.
And by the way, great. You got to step up your word game now, Rob. He used putrid. That was a great use of the word putrid.
He did.
But no, the 2-point conversion, just to defend that real quick, the 2-point conversion, I don't have a problem with that. And my reasoning for them for liking that move was more so because I didn't want to watch not one more minute of that game. So my motives were not pure. But the decision though is let's win it now. Let's put it let's go for the win. The problem that I have is don't put it in the hands of the guy who literally fumbled the ball away when you were driving to win it in regulation, just, the more conventional way. That's the problem I have. Do some razzle-dazzle, do something different, but don't put it in the hands of the guy who's turned the ball over twice.
That could be a separate one. All right, Dave Preston, you look like you're agreeing with that. You probably had some binge watching to get to, and you want to get the game over with.
The thing is, yes, the Burgundy and Gold lost because they missed the 2-point conversion. But I think the fans who were watching the game won because instead of a potential 70-minute affair, you only had to watch 60 minutes of what we will call football. I don't know technically if it really was. The 2-point conversion play, I wasn't a fan of that call because you take a right-handed quarterback going into the rolling left. It just he looked awkward from the get-go, as opposed to, it didn't feel like the way a play like that should look. So there's that. Two, coming close to the New York Giants. This is a results-based business, and this team is 1-5. They're in last place of the worst division in football. Quarterback 1, Dwayne Haskins, did not get the job done. Quarterback 2, Kyle Allen, doesn't look that much better, although I will say he's much better on third down than Dwayne Haskins. I think this past Sunday they moved the chains on 8 of 15 attempts on third down, which, hey, you know what, for the unit that was only I think 29% entering this week, that's a godsend. He completed 10 of 12 passes, not all moved the sticks, but he was able to move the chains a little bit better than Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith were in previous weeks, again, against different teams, so it's almost apples to oranges. It's going to be interesting to see if Kyle Allen starts this upcoming Sunday against Dallas, because while he didn't necessarily lose the job, he didn't necessarily lock it down for the rest of the season or even the rest of the month.
All right, we'll get to that topic in a second. But first, George, you got a lot of books behind you, so bring some sense to all this before we move on to the next topic.
All right, I like firing up these people too. Number one, you have to admit the offense did move smoother this week than it has in the past. Okay, you saw Kyle Allen's mobility. You saw him complete some passes up the field. I'm not saying it was great, but I'm saying compared to what Dwayne Haskins was doing, I think it moved. I think the offense was a little more fluid this week. The 2-point conversion, look, you can go a couple of different ways here. Do I love going for the win? Yes. Okay. But if you're Ron Rivera and he said this week that his messaging has been pretty consistent. Well, if you're going to win the division, then you kick the extra point. You go to overtime against, your defense. The Giants' defense has been on the field a long time in that second half. Your defense has been flustering Daniel Jones towards the end of that fourth quarter, with the exception of Kyle Allen's fumble, and played pretty good. Your team had played pretty well in that fourth quarter. So if that's the case, and you really think you're going to win the division, kick the extra point. There's no fans in the stands. You're on the road. I get it. You go for the win on the road to tie it home, but come on. There's no fans in the stands. That just shouldn't have played a difference. And he said as much this week. At home, he would have gone for the tie. I'm not buying that either because there's no crowd to worry about.
Right.
But that's my thing. If you really want to win this division, you kick the extra point, take your chances in overtime with your defense, which has been playing well, and their offense, which had been pretty tired. But in a general scheme of things, do I like just you say, look, I got confidence, we're going to go for the win? Yes. If Kyle Allen actually looked upfield and ran the ball in the end zone, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
No.
There's that.
All right.
Well,
That's it for me. Thank you.
Look, we need something to talk about on the WTOP Huddle. All right, let's get to
True.
the next topic. It's the big one. And Rob Woodfork convinced me. If this is the way this season was going to play out, Washington should have gone out, gotten Cam Newton, allowed Dwayne Haskins to learn from Cam Newton, and had that kind of environment. So I'll stay consistent. The fact that they committed to, I thought, a rebuilding process, I thought they should have said, all right, let's ride with Dwayne Haskins and see what this is all about. You spent a first-round pick on him. In some ways, you're already we talked about, I think, Dave Preston, you brought up that if this was not a rebuilding year, Adrian Peterson would have still been on the roster. So I think they should have gotten Cam Newton and gone that way. They didn't. Instead of that, stay with Dwayne Haskins. But now that we're talking about going after the division, which is what it's all about, and this great awakening that happened a couple weeks in, that you realize, wait a minute, you can win the division, that Alex Smith is the choice. If that's the way you're going, if that's what you want to accomplish, he demonstrated to me he is ready to play and get it done. So I think that definitely is a possibility that they should consider. I'll open it up now to the floor. Cichon, let's go to you. Your thoughts.
Yeah, I like the idea of Alex Smith starting here because they are competitive. And I like Alex Smith being able to step right in and play the Dallas Cowboys potentially and beat this Cowboys team that is just beleaguered defensively Their secondary looked porous against Arizona. They can't stop anybody run-wise. And Alex Smith can show a little bit of mobility too. Now, do we want him to be mobile is another question. Kyle Allen, he's a little bit younger, so it's okay. We're not holding our breath every time. But I still think either way, this is the perfect scenario for Washington to get a victory this week against the Dallas Cowboys. Talk about issues. We have plenty of them here. I think the Cowboys offensive line went from top 3 to bottom 3 in the span of less than a year. They're decimated injury-wise, and this is why you brought in Chase Young to wreak havoc on a statue who can't play anymore like Andy Dalton. This is the chance. I can't believe Washington is a 1-point dog at home.
Yeah.
That's up really nicely for them, whoever the quarterback is.
And by the way, did you hear today? Did you hear how Dallas is imploding today? Did you see the quotes today? Like they originally were going to keep this in-house, but now all of a sudden the coaching staff can't coach. They don't know what they're doing. Can't make adjustments.
But
I mean, Mike McCarthy. And I saw the stat. He's like 5-11, I think, his last 16 games as the head coach or something like that. So
we knew they couldn't coach because, first of all, Mike McCarthy had Aaron Rodgers and has one Super Bowl to show for it. One. And it's one that they arguably could not have and maybe should not have won because they had like 17 guys on injured reserve and Rodgers was the only guy who didn't get hurt that year. So if you look at it, he's and I've said this before, he's basically Jason Garrett. You went out and hired Jason Garrett 2.0, and we all know Mike Nolan from his time here. Has he ever had a defense that was impressive? I don't remember him having a defense that we didn't criticize loudly. So yeah, that Dallas is, and I stopped short of saying this because I just feel like it's going to lead to Washington losing by like 30. But Dallas is ripe for the taking right now.
All right, and
Washington playing at home should help. And I know there's no fans in the stands and all that, but I mean, this is a very similar situation to what they had when they played the Philadelphia Eagles, where you have this offensive line that's like beaten up really badly. And really that's the key for Washington here. Because remember, they had that big 8-sack performance against the Eagles. They've had 8 sacks in the 5 games since.
Yeah.
So they need to have another big outing like that. And the thing about Alex Smith, and this is the only reason why I'm advocating for them to start Alex Smith, is because he's the one quarterback that they have on that roster who you can count on with you can confidently go into a matchup and say, he's going to protect the football for me. And that's exactly what it was when he was the starter in 2018. They went 6-3, not because he's, throwing over the top and beating guys, throwing for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. His numbers were very unimpressive. He had probably one of his worst seasons statistically, but he protected the football, they ran the ball, and they were pretty good on defense for at least a stretch.
Wow, what a job by Rob to bring us back to – I had forgotten what the question was. And the question was, does Alex Smith start? He brought us full circle back. Dave Preston, Alex Smith, you give him a go or you stay with Kyle Allen for now?
Tough pass. I think you stay with Kyle Allen here. I didn't see enough, and it was against the Rams, who have a much better pass rush than any other team that they're going to face this year. I think you got to stay with Kyle Allen. I'm not confident in Alex Smith, his ability to throw the ball down the field, his ability to work behind a spotty offensive line that has allowed 24 sacks so far this season. That's tied for 30th in the league. I'm not confident that Alex Smith is going to give you the best chance to win against the Dallas defense that's not good. But you know what? Those guys are getting paychecks as well. I say you stay with Kyle.
All right, George, in about a minute or less. And George, stay with
Kyle.
I'm going
to stay with Kyle this week. I think we saw enough last week of the offense moving to give him another week. I mean, and look, and if it's a winnable game and he makes a couple of big mistakes and then you make, you go to the bench late in the second half or whatever. But I give Kyle another start, especially if Sadiq Charles is all right and he gets back. I mean, that could also be a plus for Alex Smith starting too. But if Charles gets back in, I mean, we saw what he had 2 plays. But Ron Rivera very impressed with those 2 plays on Sunday, so that could be a key. But I'm sticking with Kyle this week.
All right, Cichon, I know you got to break the huddle shortly. Your pick: who wins Sunday, Washington or the Cowboys? And also, do you have a wagering pick to offer to us?
I do. I've got the Washington football team. I predicted them to win last week. That did not go so well, but I do believe that this defense steps up enough and defeats Dallas, unless Dallas goes with the JMU product, Danucci, the 7th Ranger, but I don't see that happening, so I got Washington. I have the Tennessee Titans covering 2 points and beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even without Taylor Lewan, their all-star or Pro Bowl offensive tackle tearing his ACL, I still think that Tennessee's run game is strong enough and their defense is good enough to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's all I got, and break the huddle.
Break down a big cheese pick. All right, Rob, who wins, Washington or the Cowboys?
I love that. Derrick Henry is just reaping souls right now, isn't he?
Oh.
My goodness.
94-yard run.
Oh, my goodness. He does it every year. Let's see here. Washington. I'm going to take Washington.
Boy, that was convincing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I did with the Giants, too. I mean, the more winnable the game is, the more mind-boggling ways they find to lose them. I mean, a fumble that was returned for a touchdown. I mean, come on. I just think that the Cowboys are turning the ball over at an even more alarming rate than Washington is. So I think that's going to be the difference. There is the turnover battle. I think Dallas is hemorrhaging it. I mean, you saw the other night with Zeke Elliott. I mean, when have you ever seen Zeke Elliott fumble that many times in a game? I mean, he hasn't even fumbled that many times over the course of his career leading up to, this season. So I just think that they're just sideways, man. They're a mess. The owner's talking to the media every 2 minutes. So, I mean, as much of a mess as Washington is, Dallas feels like more of a mess because nobody expected Washington to be good. Everybody expected Dallas to be good. So heads have to roll for that. And I just think that's playing at home, playing in a situation where you can take advantage of an offensive line that's just way banged up. It just plays in Washington's favor right now.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Well, and again, the turnover battle is obviously the key. And the win the game, as we pointed out, Kyle Allen doesn't have those 2 turnovers. That's the only way the Giants scored touchdowns on Sunday, and that was the convincing argument for why maybe Alex Smith should be your guy because he's not going to lose the football. But I do think Washington finds a way to win on Sunday because so far I've not picked the game right. I had so it's got to happen sooner or later. I thought I picked Washington beating the Giants 16-10, and I had a fighting chance until it all came off the tracks. George, Washington or the Cowboys Sunday?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I can't believe I'm saying it. I mean, I said last week that I didn't know where to go with this game and that they would win by 3 because both teams are just god awful. But now you get solid Dallas. I mean, I thought they had a good point watching the game the other night about Elliott because maybe the pressure there now that his buddy Dak is out and he's got so much pressure on himself and he's fumbling the football. And I heard him say afterward, this one's on me. But if that's a guy you can get to and he's a little fragile right now, Chase Young hits him a couple times early. You never know. I mean, no, do I think Andy Dalton's going to beat him? No. I mean, if Elliott gets going, maybe, but I think the turnover is key, and I think the Washington defense has actually been playing better. They're finally making lineup changes too, guys. We haven't talked about that. DeShazier Everett in the game. Kerrigan only played 7 snaps the other day, so they're finally starting to make some lineup changes. You can argue they should have done a few weeks ago, but maybe they're starting to come into that now. But I think I give Washington a chance. I think they win. I think they win a close game. I think the defense forces Andy Dalton into a mistake late, either a fumble or a pick. Kendall Fuller, why not? He's got 4 in 3 games. What's another couple picks for him? So,
all right, and Dave Preston, bring us home. Bring us home, Mr. Preston.
You know what? I could say that the Washington football team will win this upcoming Sunday because Dallas is working off that short work week, which you always get when you have that. No, when you have the Monday Night Football game, and then when you go on the road, teams don't perform as well for whatever reason. I see that as a factor. I see the Andy Dalton turnover factor. Dallas is last in the league, -12 giveaway takeaway. I see that as a factor. I see the burgundy and gold with a third week with Kyle Allen at the controls. I see the offense improving a little bit more and taking advantage of perhaps one of the worst defenses in the league. Dallas 31st at stopping the run. They allow the most points in the league. And they're not really good at getting off the field on third down. But I think the Washington football team will win because they want to win this one for their fans. And I'm sure that there are kids out there who one of them might even have a birthday this upcoming Sunday. And he's been rooting for the burgundy and gold all of his life. And they're going to say, hey, Georgie, we're going to win this one for you.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice.
Almost got a tear in my eye on that one. That was,
Yeah.
well, as always, as we come to the conclusion, as promised, we solved nothing. But Rob Woodfork, George Wallace, Dave Preston, Chris Cichon, thanks for your time and thanks for watching the WTOP Huddle.
Break.
Break.